The story of Moses is deepening, reaching into the very soul of the people. The Israelites are still standing there at the edge of the Jordan River. If you close your eyes, you can almost imagine the breeze blowing from across the water, carrying the scent of fresh grass and hidden flowers from the land of Canaan, a scent they haven't smelled in a generation. But Moses isn't just talking about the scenery. He is sharing something vital, perhaps the most important lesson of their lives. Now, he brings up a memory that everyone knows, but no one wants to talk about, a ghost from their past that still haunts the older generation. It is a story of a missed opportunity, a story of what could have been done. Everyone, you must remember what happened. You must remember it clearly, and you must look at it coldly. Do not turn your eyes away from the mirror of history. Do you remember? There was a time when we were so close to the promise. It was at a place called Kadesh Barnea. Back then, Canaan was right there. It was so close we could have reached out and touched it. We were standing on the very doorstep of our future, just like we are standing here today. Back then, your parents came to me with a suggestion. They seemed so practical, so wise in their own eyes. They said, let's not just rush in. Let's send some men ahead to scout out the land. We want to know which road is safest, which cities are the strongest, and what kind of people we are going to face. They wanted a map. They wanted a guarantee. They wanted to see before they believed. At the time, it seemed like a reasonable request. Even I thought it was a smart move. I didn't see the seed of doubt hiding behind their logic. So we chose 12 men, one leader from each of your tribes. These were the best and the brightest, the heroes of the camp. We watched them march away with hearts full of excitement, heading into the unknown. We waited for 40 long days, staring at the horizon, wondering what they would find. They climbed into the rugged hill country and walked through the deep valley of Eshcol. For 40 days, they stepped on the soil, drank from the springs, and looked at every corner of that land. They saw the terraced hills, the flowing streams, and the magnificent forests. And finally, they came back to camp. The whole nation gathered to hear their report. Do you remember what they brought back? The fruit. They brought back a single cluster of grapes so massive that it took to grown men to carry it on a pole. They showed it to the people and shouted, "This land is amazing. It truly is a land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord promised. It is everything we dreamed of and more." But that joy didn't even last 5 minutes. The atmosphere shifted in a heartbeat. 10 of those spies changed their tone. Their eyes grew wide, their faces turned pale, and they began to whisper of nightmares. They said, "But listen, the people there are giants. They are much stronger than we are. Their cities are huge, with walls that reach up to the very heavens. Next to them, we felt like grasshoppers. We felt tiny and insignificant, and that's exactly how we looked to them." The moment you heard that negative report, your parents' hearts began to melt. The poison of fear spread through the camp like a wildfire. Suddenly, the giants in front of them looked much bigger than the God behind them. They forgot the Red Sea. They forgot the plagues of Egypt. They only saw the giants. You gathered in your tents and started whispering in the dark. Fear turned into grumbling, and grumbling turned into pure, blinding rage. All night long, the camp was filled with the sound of despair. People were screaming, "Why did we leave Egypt? Why did God bring us here? It would have been better to die as slaves than to die here." Then came the words that broke God's heart. You said, "God must hate us. He only brought us here to be slaughtered by the sword. He brought us here so our wives and children would be taken as plunder." You accused the Creator of being a murderer. You judged His love as if it were a trap. But listen to me, that was a lie. God never hated you. In fact, He loved you so much that He was willing to move heaven and earth to give you the very best. But you were wearing the wrong glasses, the glasses of fear, and they blinded you to the truth of His character. You looked at the giant, but you ignored the Almighty. In the end, your parents turned their backs on the promised land. The door was wide open, but they slammed it shut with their own fear. They chose the familiar desert over the terrifying promise. A cold wind blows across the river as we remember that day, the day a whole generation gave up. I told you then, with tears streaming down my face, do not be terrified. Do not be afraid of them. The Lord your God, who is going before you, will fight for you. I tried to remind you of your own history. Didn't you see what he did in Egypt? The Lord your God carried you, as a father carries his son, all the way until you reached this place. Think about that image, a father holding his child, shielding him from the heat, carrying him when his legs are too tired to move. That was God for you. He went ahead of you in a pillar of fire by night and a cloud by day, not just to show the way, but to find the best places for you to rest. He was your scout, your protector, and your father, but despite everything, you did not trust the Lord your God. You treated the stones of a city wall as more real than the promise of the living God. You trusted your own terror more than his word. You believed the 10 spies more than the one who created the stars. And so the Lord heard your grumbling. He heard the bitter words you whispered in your tents, and he handed down a heartbreaking judgment. He said, "Not one of this evil generation shall see the good land I swore to give your ancestors." Not one. Can you imagine the silence that fell over the camp? The realization that they would never see the hills they just glimpsed, except for Caleb and Joshua, because they followed the Lord wholeheartedly. They saw the same giants, but they saw a bigger God. And as for your children, the ones you said would be taken as plunder, he said, they are the ones who will enter. I will protect what you could not trust me with. You are those children. You are the survivors. Your parents had to walk back into the barren wilderness. They wandered for 38 more years, walking in circles, watching their friends pass away one by one until that entire generation was gone. But listen closely. Those 38 years weren't just a punishment. God was using that time to reteach you. He was cleaning the poison of Egypt out of your souls. He wanted you to realize that humans do not live on bread alone, but on every word that comes from the mouth of the Lord. Your life depends on his breath, not your own strength. You learned so much in that wilderness school. You met the God who cracked open a rock to give you water when your throats were burning. You experienced the God who rained down bread from heaven every morning. You lived in a place where nothing grows, yet you never went hungry. Your clothes didn't wear out, and your feet didn't swell. But remember, all that pain, all those funerals in the sand, started with one thing: fear. You saw the problem as bigger than God. Why am I bringing up this painful past today? It's because I love you. I don't want you to repeat the same fatal mistake. I don't want you to waste another 40 years. Today, the opportunity has returned. The clock has reset. Do you see that land? The sun is hitting those hills just like it did 40 years ago. You are standing exactly where your parents stood. Nothing has changed in Canaan, but everything must change in you. You must not be the generation that kneels to fear. Believe in God's promise 1,000 times more than you believe in the threats you see with your eyes. When your heart starts to tremble, remember the Father carrying his Son. When you see the high walls, remember the pillar of fire. You are a new generation. You have been tempered in the fires of the wilderness. You are stronger because he is with you. You are wiser because you have seen the cost of doubt. Now, are you ready? Are you ready to steady your hearts, to look the giants in the eye, and take that first step of faith? As Moses speaks, the eyes of the people begin to glow with a strength they've never felt before. The fear of their parents is being replaced by a fierce, quiet resolve. They are no longer grasshoppers. They are the children of the great king. But Moses is not done yet. Having looked at the mistakes of the past, he now has to teach them how to live in the future. Deuteronomy Part 3, the path of obedience and the choice of life. The great journey toward the promise continues.